Okay, let's get started with Matchmoving. First of all, you're going to go to VFX, then motion tracking. Be sure that your settings are correct and the output. The resolution has to be that of your footage, and the frame rate has to match your footage. We're using single files. I made proxies in JPEG format. And we're going to select the first one. That's pretty important. Otherwise, you might be missing the first frames. It will start from your selection. And here you can also check if it's loading everything correctly. It says here frame 100 of 149. So we have the whole sequence in here. And this looks correct. So first we're going to select a frame from which to start. You can start at the beginning and track forward, or you can start at the end and track backwards, or maybe start in the middle and go back and forth. I'm going to start in the beginning, I think. Feeling fancy today. We can prefetch all the frames, and then we draw a garbage mat of areas that we don't want the tracking markers in. And for the most part, those are areas with moving objects, like the foliage is moving, probably the person here will be moving. Let's try to mask that out roughly. And we also might run into issues with areas where there's too much overlap. But I'm going to delete the markers separately here, I think later. I will select this area. And then we're going to detect some features. Unfold this and we'll open this, and in the placement of the markers, we want to select outside of annotation area. So the markers aren't placed here in those regions that we selected. We reduce the distance to maybe 50 pixels, and the threshold we bring down so we get an even distribution all over the frame. 0.05 is okay, but 0 is maybe not a good idea. The trackers won't be very reliable then. And now we're going to track forward. And already we can see that some are glitching around, moving around, sliding around. This one here, for example, is making issues. And I think if year 2, I've seen one that is a bit problematic. And we can also see that in the curve here that some are wandering off, and we're going to delete them one by one. Sometimes you get a marker that is good for some time. Where is this one? It's this one here. This one is sliding off, but the first half seems fine. So I'm going to keep it until the time it starts moving. Just click this button and it will then at least be used for the first half of the track. And yeah, we do this pretty much for everyone. I'm lazy and I just delete quickly what I don't like to see. It's those isolated ones that are usually problematic. And I just hope that there will be enough remaining after I did that to work with. So many are gone now. And I'm going to try to solve the thing now. I'm going to solve and click on solve camera motion and see what happens. 3.8 pixel is a lot of errors in the solve until now. Let's see if something is moving. Doesn't seem to be a lot of moving things. But as I said before, I think we might run into problems here with the markers that are overlapping in the display. We can quickly turn off the paths. That's a bit distracting. Yeah, for example, this one, it's right at the cross section between the stairs, which are in the background, and this thing, which is in the foreground. This will not yield good results. So I'm going to get rid of those and be sure that I only use tracking markers that are on a solid. Now this one actually might have worked because it's only the handle here. So I'm deleting most of those. Let's solve it again, see what happens. Still not great. You can also see here the error amount of the different tracking markers. So if there is a single one that has a specifically high error, then it makes sense to delete them. But there's none of those look suspicious right now. Okay, so what I forgot to mention, because I don't have it right now, is of course it makes sense to enter information about the camera if you know the sensor width and the focal length of the lens. Put that in here. I don't have those values because they weren't given to me. But be sure to take notes while you're filming. How big is the sensor? What kind of camera are you using? And what kind of lens are you using on the camera? And put those in there. So we're going to refine the focal length now and hope that he's going to figure out what the correct focal length is. It will be fine. He will just presume it's a 35 millimeter sensor, and the focal length will match that. We can also check for radial distortion, which probably is in there, and we're going to solve the camera. And then we get a solve error, which is fairly good. 0.21 is great, and it should be under, let's say, between 0 and 0.5 is optimal. So we now have a solve that we can work with, and we're going to make a scene now. We're going to set up the tracking scene, and you see it places then some box and a plane in the scene for you, and you can select an origin. Oopsie daisy. This is the origin, it's putting it there. And then you can also set the scale. And I assume also, again, very important to take measurements on the set. So if you can track 2 points and know their distance, this is really helpful in the process. I assume this door is 1 meter wide. I'm not sure about that, but I will use that now and set the scale using that value, 1 meter. Also, in the beginning, I should have done that, but I know it's correct. Check the unit setup in Blender. Scene setup, it's here. It should be, of course, on metric. and 1 unit is a meter, then everything is fine. And now we're going to align the scene, because this is not facing the right way. And we're going to do this by defining a floor. We know a couple of points are on the floor, and the further apart they are, the better. Also, you need to select 3, and then you click on floor, and you see it aligned nicely to the floor. The origin got lost a little bit though, so we set the origin again, maybe to this marker, and then we see a 2-meter tall box here, and that looks correct. When you're done with that, you can export a flattened footage. If you have the plate which is distorted right now, you can check actually how bad it is by looking at the lens distortion values here. The more extreme they are, the more your plate is distorted. Blender will make an undistort node here for you, and you can use that to flatten your footage. We're not going to use this because these are just JPEGs for the Matchmove. You have to plug in the good quality. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this. Here you can see the difference between the original footage and the undistorted one. And we're going to take an XR sequence, and we're going to flatten it. We have it. Again, check before, after, and we're going to get rid of all this for now. Going to render the flattened one. And just here in the render settings, we're going to select a path for that. "17 plate flat." I already did that, so you don't have to do it. I don't have to do it again, but it looks a little bit like that. And be sure to render oversize, because the undistorted plate will be bigger. So we need to add some percentage here. Maybe 110 is enough. It's worth trying. And then you hit the render button here, and it will save your animation. Save the footage that is to be used. And we can also check the Matchmove, go back to motion tracking. We should do that if it's actually working. So again, we set here in the render settings a path for the preview. Go to Matchmoving. You should have a folder structure roughly like that: Matchmoving, plate, proxy, also then matte painting, 3D compositing, stuff like that will go here. And in Matchmoving, you can render a preview. Again, I already did that, so I'm not going to push the render button. And then you're going to go to view and say here, viewport, render animation, and it will render that preview for you. And you check if it's matching, if it looks perfect, and the plate is the plane is stuck to the ground, then it's exactly what we want. Of course, you can make some adjustments here if you want and move things around a little bit. That's fine. Yeah, and that's about it. Then we're going to export. And I recommend using a USD file. When you do that, be sure to click animation. Otherwise, you will get a still frame, and save that to a location. And we're going to open that in another program then. What you also can do, if that's any help, is in addition to the objects that Blender automatically creates, you can use some tracking markers and export them. There's a couple of options. For example, if I select those guys here, they're on the wall. You can also, if you're looking for something specific, you can just add a new marker. Let's do that for now. Maybe we add one here. And you drag that back and forward. Of course, you need to check if everything is okay. It's not moving around wildly. This is just a 2D tracking marker now. We need to solve it again so it gets a 3D position. And now you have a 3D tracking marker there. And this can be exported. So if you need a specific location in space, you just add a new marker and you track it again. You track it and solve it again, and then you can export that position. Okay, let's do the export, or rather, let's convert those markers to either a 3D mesh. So you can go like this, 3D markers to mesh, or you can link helpers to the track. So you have empties in the scene that you can export. That's another option. I will quickly show you how to turn those, how many are there? 6 vertices into a mesh. You can do that with geometry nodes. If they're selected, you just click new and you go here and say hull, and then here it gives you convex hull. It will make a shell around it, basically. It will wrap it with some faces and edges and something that you can see in the next program. So other than that, you just export it as before as USD and you're done. In the other program, we're going to again make sure that everything is set up properly first. So the resolution, first of all. We can also already set this to a render active time segment. We can adjust the length. I think it was 149 at the end and at the beginning, frame 1. And of course, it's not 30 FPS NTSC, but 24. Let's put them in here and hit OK. Okay, I have to go back again because it converted it from 30 to 24. So we have to enter this again. 149, I think is correct. And then we're going to import the file we just exported. Hit OK. Actually, let's check again. It's important that you have the right range here. But this is these are the settings from Blender. It was set to from 1 to 149. So this is correct and can be imported. Then we can take a look to the camera. I made a couple more objects here that were supposed to be imported. Those are the windows. And this is the floor, some tracking markers. And yeah, first thing, the camera, select it and go to hierarchy, link info, and lock it. This is very important so it doesn't get moved around accidentally. This can happen easily. So this is the first thing you should do. The next thing is we're going to check if it aligns with our match move. And we do this by importing the match move. So here's the rendering that I did, the preview rendering from Blender. Let's get that. Here should be a checkbox, load a sequence. Of course, we want to load the full sequence. And we want to see it in the background. So we hit 8 and drag it into the environment background here, environment map. And we see it already in the background, but it's set to spherical environment and it isn't a sphere. So let's put it to screen. Also make sure that the start frame is correct. It should start at 1. And we can also set our timeline to start at 1. Okay. So this should align with match move from Blender. So here you see the object in the scene. And you see behind that the object from Blender. So this worked nicely. Again, we can make a preview here to see if it works for the whole duration. If you want to make a preview in Max, I recommend installing a plugin named TyFlow. Put the link in the description. It's free, it's great, and it does a better job at previewing. So you can make an MP4 file here and it will render real quick a preview. There's a minimal gap, but it's fine. Okay, I already see it's working nicely, so stop and don't play. So this is good. We now save the file before we continue with the next steps. Let's overwrite this one. Yes. So the next thing we're going to do is, since we rendered the plate with oversize, with I think 115%, I rendered it, we have to do the same adjustments here. First of all, if I bring in the plate now, again, by hitting M, and let's just copy that and go to plate flat. So the undistorted one, load the sequence, open. We put this in the background now. Oh, yeah. Again, this happens all the time. Every time you drag something in the environment, it automatically switches to spherical. So this should actually align with the window here. It doesn't anymore. So we have to change the camera, and there's different ways how you can do that. First of all, you can check what resolution you have rendered out of Blender, which is not the full HD resolution, but 15% more. So you can actually, if you want, you can do the math. I just did it. So 1920 times 1.15%, yeah, it is 2208. So we add the 15% here and get this result. And we can enter those values here manually. We can do the same with the camera. We can just multiply by 1.15 the field of view, this value here, and we get the correct camera. But I'm too lazy and I don't want to do that. That's why I have a script, which you can find on my GitHub. I again put a link in the description. And that script I'm going to use now. So if you download a script, it will be an MS file, and you just drag it into the viewport. It's a little kind of program. Also, we click here to see what we have in our file. The camera is linked to a helper, and the helper has the keyframes. The camera doesn't actually have the animation. It's just linked to the helper. With this script, you can choose if you want to have the new cameras that you're going to create attached to that helper, or if you want to bake them as new cameras, which I'm going to do. If it's not already picked, you can pick the source camera here. And then you do the math. You add the 15% here. And this is the current settings. Also, maybe be sure to check that the field of view. And by the way, actually, before we do that, you'll notice that there is a little discrepancy here. For some reason, the Blender exported this all wrong by the factor 100. So actually, the width of the sensor was 35 millimeters, and focal length, I guess, was correct. It was a 3 here, actually, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so this is the field of view where we're going to work with. And this is maybe also the reason why it didn't line up perfectly before, because there might be some small errors there. So again, let's use the script. Just drag it in and check if the field of view is correct. It is. If the camera is selected correctly, and if the base resolution is correctly, again, you can check in the render settings, but we did that at the very beginning to make sure that we have the full HD resolution. Then we say bake new camera, so we get nice copies, and it will also detach them from the helper, so they will be independent. The percentage is correct. We just click on create cameras and wait a few seconds, and then we get the new base camera. Close this now. And an oversized camera. So if we select the oversized camera and hit C, we see it aligns nicely again to those edges on the window. Now, again, if we want, we can make a preview rendering. It was somewhere here. I always, tie flow. Tie preview, very good for doing that. Also, we may want to turn on save frames so we see the right aspect ratio, and maybe also check if the new cameras are locked, which they aren't. So let's quickly do that. I should add that to the script, that it automatically takes those properties from the original camera. It doesn't do that yet. Okay, so then we're done. We save a version 2. Just click here, save incremental. And next thing is we're going to check out how to do some modifications in the scene, add some matte paintings, maybe stuff like that. Okay, let's see if we can add some matte paintings, stuff like that. So first of all, we need to find a good position from where to project onto the scene. And since the camera is moving forward, I think it's best to start at the beginning. The first frame will show the most of the floor, and maybe a little bit we can go forward, because the camera is not starting immediately. Okay, maybe let's say 25, just to be sure. So this frame will be our starting position, and we're going to make a copy. Actually, we're going to use the oversized camera, and we just hit P, which will choose the perspective mode, and Control C, which will give us a new camera. And you see it moved slightly. This is because it's a target camera now, and we don't want that actually. So we select the camera and uncheck targeted. Also, the camera, since it moved, we need to align it to the oversized camera again. So let's do that. Actually, we don't need to, but I'm going to. So click align and select the oversized camera and check the position and the rotation. So this will be our projection camera, and we call it projection. And we also add the frame number 25 and maybe a version number if we want to make changes. Again, new camera, lock it. And probably we may want to change the field of view even further a little bit. So we are free to do this now as we please. This camera is a bit much. This camera is just going to project the matte painting, maybe like this, and actually a bit more, maybe 42, let's say. So this, hopefully, we will test that later, covers the whole area that is visible in the plate. And we're going to do this. We're going to find out by using the oversized camera, and we're going to project the footage onto an object. First, of course, we need to build that object. I'm starting with a plane. Actually, let's work with folders here. Make a new folder with, well, why not? Make a folder for the cameras, oversized projection and base. Those are the new cameras that are independent from that stuff. We can hide this for now and make another layer. And in this layer, we're going to create a plane. I'm going to do it roughly where the floor is ending. Make it a little bit wider. And then maybe there are already some subdivisions. We can increase those and use them actually. Add a poly on it. Select an edge here, double clicking and dragging up with the shift key until it's out of frame. And those we can also, if we want, connect give them a little bit more subdivisions. Okay, good. That worked nicely. Didn't I just hit OK? Okay. Okay, next thing, we hit M again, and we're going to use a node called camera map per pixel, which is very precise. Always be sure to set the blur on footage to 001 so you don't get blurry footage. In this case, the footage is only 1080p, so it's already difficult enough. So high res would be recommended here. So we put this into texture. We select a camera here, which will be the projection camera. And for now, it's the oversized camera. So we're projecting the footage onto that object. Since I'm rendering with V-Ray, I'm going to use light material. Actually, I need to change the renderer first because it's not set to V-Ray yet. Otherwise, the materials don't show up here. Light material, there it is. It goes in the light color, of course. And we set the color to black. Actually, let's make a copy of this and use the copy because we're going to use it as a texture now. And we have to pick a camera. I did that. Okay, good. Also, we need to maybe put the material on the object just by dragging this onto it. And then we can copy that too and copy this. And we're going to, this is a hack, but we can use this for opacity too. Makes it a bit easier later. So I'm going to say RGB output alpha is gray. It just makes it white actually. Put it in texture and put that in opacity, which will make the thing pretty much transparent. And this is already assigned to the object. Let's really quickly check the color space here because it's an EXR. It needs to be linear. Okay. Okay. Well, I assume it was correct before. And then we can render through the projection camera. And see what happens. A single frame for now. Let's choose a higher resolution, 4K in this case, because the matte painting will be in 4K later, I guess. And let's render and see what happens. So I see some play. I also see some stuff in the background. Of course, we have to turn off the background. So hit 8 again and uncheck this. And another render. This time only of the projection, I guess. And we see there's a repetition here. Another problem also needs to be addressed because we only want it once. So we go to material. hit M. And the textures are set to tiling, so they repeat themselves. We don't want that for the projection. And then, yeah, that looks much better. So we render our frame. Now everything should be black around it. And we can now take a look at different points in time and see if there is an issue at some point. We want all the pictures that we're rendering inside that frame, because this will be the projection of the matte painting. If it touches the upper edge, then I'm going to adjust the projection camera. Maybe there's some room on the bottom, but I will only rotate the camera. I will not move the position. And there might be some stretching happening, but it will mostly be in the things that are projected on the wall. If you have a geometry that is precise and matches the actual architecture, then it will work very nicely and it will fit. But we don't have this kind of data. In professional productions, they would do LiDAR scans and stuff like that of the surroundings, and that can be used for a reprojection. But we're going to replace it anyways with our own stuff. I think it will work. Those things will go, and we put our own things in there. Let's check the last one. Yeah, I think it will work nicely. So you see the camera's moving forward and projecting this stuff. We're going to save a couple of those frames, which, by the way, come with a nice alpha channel, and they can be used in Photoshop. So you just stack them on top of each other and patch, so to speak, the matte painting together. And this matte painting you're going to project through the projector camera then, the same way we did it now with the oversized camera. Okay, so I brought in a couple of renderings into Photoshop, and as you can see, they are aligning, but they're aligning only where the geometry matches. So the floor should mostly be fine. It's not as precise as the actual floor. And up until here, here's the vertical plane that we had in the scene. And that, of course, does not much match with the geometry of the building, with the architecture. So you see there's a slight offset as the camera is moving. So if we match the geometry better, we can actually use all of the frames from the footage and use them as part of the matte painting, which is projected on a geometry. I made a very, very simple geometry here just for demonstration purposes. And you can see that actually we had quite some room on the bottom. So actually we could have panned down with the camera easily. It's mostly extended upwards. And yeah, we can now add some more stuff, fix maybe some errors here with the layers that we have to make things align better. But I guess, yeah, mostly we're going to use this. And yeah, I can use some content-aware fill, of course, to patch things up. If you do that, be sure that you never create or generate more than 1024 pixels in dimension. And I don't know why this isn't working right now. Yeah, I do know. We're in 32 bits right now. It's very important that you render at least 16 bits for matte painting. So we rendered these Rs, so they are 32-bit, but we need to go down to 16 to use the generative fill feature. I think I just did. I don't know why it's taking so long. There's a pop-up that I didn't see. Yeah, we can, if we don't want to move things around that much, we can merge here for now, and it will all be not a good idea. Change this to exposure and gamma and leave it on 1 so it doesn't change anything with the colors. And now we can generative fill here. I always leave this blank because it's not very good at prompt, cannot work well with prompts. If we want to do this better, we can use flux fill later. I can show you that in another video. But for some quick adjustments, I think this should work okay-ish. My computer is a bit slow. Maybe it's because I'm recording. Yeah, so this is how you do it. Let me save this now, export as a PNG, which has 16-bit. So I think it's good enough for the matte painting projection. And we put that in the right folder. Make a new one here. Call it matte painting. MPC17 version 001, which is of course very early and unfinished, just for demonstration purposes. And then we're going back to 3dsmax, and now we're going to turn things around, flip things around. This is going to be the camera that renders everything from now on, the oversized one. And we can use that in compositing later. And the projection camera is the one that will be projecting the matte painting onto the geometry, which of course, as I said before, could be a bit better and more precise. There are ways to do that, like LiDAR scanning, photogrammetry, but also depth estimation might help achieving a better result, or just plain modeling it by hand also should work. So material editor, again, we can actually reuse all of this and just change this to the matte painting here. Let's just open a thing, MP, the PNG. Again, we have to be sure that the color space is correct. So now we're working with sRGB. So need to change that, or flip it to automatic also should work. In this case, open. And it matches the previous one. And then we just need to change the camera because, as I said before, it's of course not the oversize anymore. It's the projection camera now. And this one, two. Actually, we can leave the white thing in here. It's not a big deal, I guess. And pick the projection one too here. Okay, so if we render this now from the, as I said, oversized camera, so select it and just hit C and we get the new perspective. We don't see much here, but if we render it, we will see the projected matte painting. It has a slight color tinge, but I don't care about that now. Okay. We'll deal with that later. Yeah, and of course it makes sense to remove the person from the matte painting too. Yeah, so this is also something that can quickly be done. maybe make a copy for later. Can also use, of course, the plate because she's moving and there will be stuff visible that is now occluded by her. But yeah, for demonstration purposes, quickly export. I think the colors are off here for some reason. And that would be version 2. Okay, next thing we're going to look at in the next video is how to add 3D objects in the scene, how to use matte materials, shadow catchers, stuff like that.